Hello, everyone. Wanted to do a podcast episode today specifically on something a little bit different, but from time to time, I love to just do a whole podcast episode on great quotes from the books that I'm reading. And so, we're just, about 6 weeks, 6 or 7 weeks into the new year. And I've got a great start on one of my personal growth goals for myself is reading 50 nonfiction books every year. But it doesn't always break down to one a week, right? There are times of life, seasons of life where we're traveling and speaking and we're busier. And so, I might be reading a lot less during those times. And then there are times when we're home a little bit more, not as busy for whatever reason. And so I tend to get a little more reading done. And so I've got a great start on my goal for myself relative to my personal growth plan for this year. So I wanted to just share with you some of the quotes that I've found. I love quotes. I love great wisdom from other people. They make me think, make me see things in a different perspective. And so I wanted to just do a quick podcast episode and share with you some of the great quotes that I've been reading and coming across and kind of why I love them to begin with, because I know when I find something that raises my level of awareness or something that helps me think differently, odds are it might help somebody else out there as well. So, you may very well have heard some of these quotes, and that's okay. I've heard some of these quotes before, but I wanted to drill down and just share with you some of the ones that really resonated with me in a different perspective or a different way. One of the very first ones I'm reading, I've actually read a couple books by John Maxwell already this year. And one of the quotes that I love is he says, "Others can stop you temporarily, but you are the only one who can do it permanently." And I love that because how many times do we run into a roadblock or a circumstance or a situation and we find it's not going to be as easy as we thought it was going to be. It's not going to happen as fast as we thought it was going to be. And right, usually that's because somebody else has, maybe not even intentionally, but we've encountered something in dealing with someone else that has meant we need to slow down or stop, or they've stopped us, right? However that plays out. But it's entirely up to us to navigate around that roadblock, right? Other people might stop us temporarily, intentionally or not, but we're the only ones who can do it permanently. And I think a lot of times our perceived failures in life happened simply because we ran into a roadblock or someone stopped us and we quit. Right? We're the only ones who can do it permanently. And that was just a really insightful way of bringing that topic to light, just to remind us that it's only failure when we quit, right? We're the only ones that can define failure for ourselves. Another great quote that I came across, Charles Jones said, "What you will be or what you will become in 5 years will be determined by what you read and who you associate with." What you will become in 5 years will be determined by what you read and who you associate with. So what are you reading? What books are you reading that are helping you move forward? Right? I've got a pretty good list already for this year, but maybe that's not your preferred method of learning. And I think the language here probably was written at a time when most people only had access to reading as a way to grow. These days, you've got podcasts. Obviously, you're listening to this podcast or YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube, there are audio books you can listen to. There are audios out there, videos. There's just a wealth of ways that you can grow. So maybe this quote in modern language, I don't even know when Mr. Jones said this, but maybe in modern language, this quote could say, "What you'll become in 5 years will be determined by what you're learning and who you associate with." So what are you learning? How are you growing? Whatever that preferred method for you is, and you don't have to do it all day, but just being intentional about that growth plan. And then who you associate with, right? I think it's Jim Rohn who said you become the average of the 5 people you choose to spend the most time with. And he doesn't mean the people you work with, right? Because you pretty much have to be around them. But he's talking about the people with whom you choose to spend your free time, because you have shared values with those people. That's why you're spending your shared free time with them. Who are you hanging out with on Friday nights or Saturdays? right? Your friends, your buddies, because that's influencing you either positively or negatively. They're either pulling you up or they're pushing you down or bringing you down, right? So look at who you're associating with. And it doesn't mean you can't love someone and spend less time with them, right? You just need to be sure that your inner circle is filled with the people who are going the same direction that you want to go, because those are your shared mutual values. John Maxwell says there's no such thing as an unalterable attitude. Oh, that's a good one. I just have this image of a 2-year-old pouting for something that didn't go their way, right? I mean, we've all heard of the phrase, the terrible twos. And talk about a self-defeating prophecy for our kids, right? We start off the bat telling ourselves and telling them that they're just going to be difficult to deal with when they become 2 years old. That we could go a whole podcast episode into the negative influences that can create. But really, I have this mental image of a young kid who didn't get their way. And so they just sit down and they pout. They have a terrible attitude. But there's no such thing as an attitude that we cannot change, right? Whether we're 220 or 200, we always have the ability to choose a positive, proactive attitude. Now, maybe not when we're 1 and 2, literally, but by the time we are emotionally able to choose to be proactive, then we have that freedom. There's no such thing as an unalterable attitude. We always have the ability to choose a different attitude, to alter it. And that can happen just that quick. And when it does, our perspective on life gets better. And so, I've touched on this before, but that means that nobody else can make you have a bad day. Nothing else can make you have a bad day or a bad week or a bad life, because you can always alter the attitude. You cannot always alter the circumstance, or at least not right in the moment, but you can always alter the attitude that comes with it. And Viktor Frankl kind of speaks to that in Man's Search for Meaning. He said, the last of human freedoms is to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. So very much the same to what Maxwell was saying there. I loved this quote that James Allen shared that says, a person cannot travel within and stand still without. And that kind of goes back to the whole concept of growing, right? If we're growing inside, if we're developing ourselves and our mindset, then that will change our circumstances. It will improve our circumstances, because we cannot grow here and not influence externally, right? We cannot travel within and stand still without, because if we travel within, we are going to travel somewhere different or in a different direction externally. That's just the fact. I love this. Thomas Watson said, nothing so conclusively proves a man's ability to lead others as what he does from day to day to lead himself, right? And what we do from day to day to lead ourselves, that really proves our ability to lead and influence others, because the most important and the most difficult person to lead is the one sitting in your chair right now. The one listening to this podcast right now. You are the most difficult person that you are ever going to try to lead, right? We all know that there are things that we should do that we don't do. There are things we shouldn't do that we do anyway, right? We all have that. None of us are perfect. We're human. And we've always got to realize that our ability to lead other people is first based on and precedented by our ability to lead ourselves. Mark Twain said, keep away from people who belittle your ambitions. Small people always do that, but the really great make you feel that you too can become great. I love that. Stay away from people who try to belittle your ambitions. One of the ways Max says this when we're speaking on stage, he'll say, average people try to keep you average, right? Stay away from people who are belittling your ambitions. It is just a fact that when we try to grow, sometimes the people around us are the ones that want to hold us back the most. And that's tough, right? But remember that just because someone else has that perspective doesn't mean you have to let it affect you. So maybe you need to minimize time with some people in your lives if they're holding you back. If you're setting a goal for yourself and they're not encouraging it, then it's time to rethink that relationship. If they are belittling your ambitions or influencing you in a negative way, I can remember many, many years ago, I was still working at the hospital back then. And we always did, probably like a lot of groups or organizations, we tried to do a little birthday celebration. When someone had a birthday, we try to get together and have lunch and, celebrate that person's birthday. And I remember this particular birthday celebration. Actually, there were two people's birthdays, and I was the one nominated to make the cupcakes. And so we all, as a group, there were probably 8 or 10 of us, maybe a few more. We all go out to lunch and I show up with the cupcakes. And, after we eat, we sit down and I'm passing out the cupcakes. And one of the persons who it was their birthday, one of the people who it was their birthday said, "No, thanks. I don't want a cupcake." And I thought, well, why not? In fact, I think I said it. Well, why don't you want a cupcake? It's your birthday, And they said, "You know what? I'm focused on 30 days of clean eating, no sugar, no processed foods, no dairy, and so on and so forth. And this cupcake does not fit into my commitment to myself." And it was instant that everybody else around the table started to just say, "Well, you can just have one cupcake, right? You can just have like a bite of a cupcake. That's not really going to mess you up. Just, come on, it's your birthday." And I didn't, because I didn't want to derail that person and their success. I was just proud of them for sticking to their commitment. But I thought it was kind of sad how, everybody else around us was just bringing that person and their ambition, their commitment to themselves, trying to bring that down. And, those people didn't mean anything harmful by it. They weren't trying to, be evil about it. But I bet a lot of times we encourage someone to get off track, indulge, or just, step away from their commitment to themselves because we feel pressured, right? When someone makes a commitment to exercising more or eating better or, whatever it is, when someone makes a personal growth goal and a commitment to themselves, then we feel a little bit of pressure that we're not doing the same thing. And so our justification for that, or our way to get that pressure off of ourselves, is to try to influence the other person to back down on their commitment to themselves, which makes absolutely no sense. But we blame other people because there's only one other choice, right? So if we're feeling that static or that pressure, then we've got to just take a deep dive and own responsibility for what do I need to, what am I not doing that I need to feel like I need to make some changes, rather than blame them for me feeling like I need to make some change, rather than try to derail them so I don't feel that pressure. Let me take a good hard look in the mirror at what I should be doing differently. So really good, insightful thoughts there. I love this. Abraham Lincoln said, "Always bear in mind that your own resolution to succeed is more important than any other one thing." Your own resolution to succeed. And this comes back time and time again to being determined is a you and you thing, right? There's nothing else that's more important. We started with a quote about other people stopping us temporarily, but we're the only ones who can do it permanently. And Abraham Lincoln is saying kind of the same thing there. Nothing else is more important than your own determination to succeed. So don't let anybody else tell you it can't be done or it shouldn't be done. Last quote that I want to wrap up on you. John Maxwell said, "We cannot consistently behave in a way that is inconsistent with our beliefs." And I've come back to this time and time again, right? Belief drives behavior. That's how I like to say it. Belief drives behavior. Because what we believe is determining how we think, how we act, how we feel, what we do, right? I've shared with you the example before that, for many years, I had limiting beliefs about my physical ability to run. And so I acted like it. But when I started to shift outside that belief, my behavior changed. See, we cannot consistently behave in a way that's inconsistent with our beliefs. That's why I come back down to so much of the time. I come back time and time again to the essence of leadership and influence is self-worth as a woman, as a leader, right? I've got to inherently believe that I have value, that I have self-worth, that I'm worthy of being a positive influence in the life of someone else. Because if I don't believe that, I'm not going to behave like that. And therefore, I'm never going to be able to influence other people effectively. Belief drives behavior. If I don't believe that I really am capable of reaching a healthy goal or a goal weight, I'm not going to act like it. I'm going to be like, well, why bother trying if it's not going to happen, right? Consciously or subconsciously, that is what we tell ourselves, because we cannot outbehave our beliefs. That might be another way to say that. Belief drives behavior. We cannot outbehave our beliefs, right? We're not going to consistently perform differently than our fundamental beliefs. We can't do it. We might do it for a short time, but unless we really shift that belief, it's not going to be a long-term change in behavior. So there you go. Just some of the great quotes that I've been reading and learning from in the last few weeks leading up to, we're about the middle of February. And I hope that you found these a little bit valuable. Maybe they've shifted something of your perspective and made you think just a little bit differently. Until next time.